Hello, my name is Jasmine Lee, and I am not your mama's astrologer. Okay, it's gonna be an easy week. It's gonna be an amazing week. Nothing at all is gonna come up for self-reflection. April Fool's Day. Duh, hello you guys. Did I not mention last week that we are in the Olympics of astrology? Because we very much are. None made so obvious than by this big zit that I have on my chin. What do I mean when I say this? Welcome to Mercury retrograde, you guys. Here we are. We are here. It is the one thing that even people that don't know astrology know about. So today marks first day of Mercury retrograde. What sign is it in? It is in Aries. What is it next to? It is next to Chiron. So let's talk about that a little bit. The thing about Chiron being in the mix this week is that we're gonna get a little butt hurt. Like, sorry, hate to break it to you guys, but the week is gonna feel a little bit like eating your vegetables when you were a kid. You don't want to, but you got to for the sake of your own heart and mental health. Things are gonna feel dicey. Things are going to feel sticky. Things are going to be very much sword-like in terms of making progress, because it's going to feel like we're going backwards a little bit. And when we feel like we're going backwards, there is a feeling like we're not changing. And that's just not true, because sometimes those holdups, sometimes those recaps, sometimes our spills are the things that wake us up, that shake us alive, that show us that we are growing. And we might not feel it in the moment, but hindsight is 2020. And so the exercise of being very human in this very human world is to allow, is to accept, is to be your most intrinsic you-ness. Because something interesting, you guys, that I have been reevaluating, working through is branding. I took an amazing business course called Let's Effing Go. And message here if you would like information on how to you yourself take that course. And it was really a lot about building your brand, about what you represent, about what you're trying to sell. And to be honest, when you're in a business where you're kind of selling yourself, you really have to take a deep look at like who my clientele is, why my clientele is that, and how I can best serve them. And for me, righteous authenticity in my life as well as in my business is the most important thing forever. And I thought about this a lot because I'm thinking about when we tell our stories. You know, we all have a version of our life story that changes over time as we grow, as we process, as we become different versions of ourselves. And I was just thinking the other day that so when I was in high school, I failed out of math. Math is very hard for me, as I'm sure probably the same for a lot of you out there. And so I failed my geometry class despite getting tutoring, despite turning in all my homework. I had a teacher who graded just based on tests, and still a little butthurt about that. But I couldn't go to college. Like, I couldn't go to normal standard college, and I saw all of my friends getting into these amazing schools, and I couldn't get into any. And I was auditioning for acting schools with the hubris of an 18-year-old. I was applying at Ithaca and Juilliard, and how very optimistic of me, and of course not getting accepted into any of them, and realizing that everybody was going to leave me. And so on a lunch break, I went with a friend to the Rotary Exchange program. And I decided, I wouldn't have to answer for that, right? That would be an accomplishment within itself, to go to a foreign country and learn. And I romanticized the hell out of it. I got selected. I went to France, and it was not chill. It really was not a great experience for me. I gained a lot of weight. I gained a lot of self-hate. I was insecure. I was not ready to be so far away from home. You know, being 18, I still hadn't been more than a week away from home. So it was very hard for me, and I came home early. And it's interesting when I talk about this story, because it's like, what brand of the story do I talk about? I sometimes topically will be like, oh yeah, I lived in France for such and such a time. And people will be like, oh my God, wow, that's so amazing, right? Street cred through the roof. And I can stop there, right? Cool. You must be fluent in French. Oh my gosh, I've always wanted to go to France. You hear all those stories. And like, that's not the truth though, is it? Because the truth is I was so homesick that I was supposed to be there for a year and I came home after 4 months, 60 pounds heavier, and really full of a lot of shame at having failed something that I, thought that I could succeed at. And so there's 2 sides of every story that we can tell when we're out in the world. And I like to call this our Facebook and in social media stories, and then our real stories, because somewhere therein lies the truth of us. And me, myself, wanting so very much to be loved, but also wanting so much to be loved truly for like who I really, really am is so important. And that's why branding is so important too, right? Because I could just tell you guys that I lived in France and then I'd come off as very chic and very traveled or whatever. But the truth is that was a very hard time for me and I didn't feel traveled and I did it. And I think about this a lot. I made that decision based on feeling not worthy of my friends and my classmates who were going off to amazing schools and getting scholarships and doing like these really amazing things with their lives. And so I made a decision for the rest of my life based on what I saw other people doing. Let's bring this into modern times, where now I am an adult, and here we are in Mercury retrograde in Aries, and we're about to have next week, which I'll go into in more detail, an eclipse in Aries, and it's next to Chiron, which, in astrology language is our wounded healer. It is the wound that always stays with us. And to an extent, we can heal, but we will always have our core wounds. And so that's up. That's up this month, you guys. Aries season is a time anyway that is full of fire and energy. And what this Mercury retrograde is asking us is, how do we simmer instead of boil? I think I just messaged my friend, the magic isn't in the boiling, the magic is in the steam that it creates, the generative energy. But the caveat to that with Mercury being in retrograde in Aries is we'll be much more prone to accidents, we'll be much more prone to body aches and symptoms, much more prone to health issues, much more prone to accidental spills and the like. So we need to be thoughtful in our bodies. We need to take it slower. We need to be willing to allow the steam instead of the boil to be the thing that is inspiring us this season. Because a little bit, we're going to have to face ourselves. And Aries energy sometimes can come in hot and bothered. And that doesn't really help us when we're trying to find solutions. It can help us when we're trying to just move forward, at all costs. But where's that get us when we're moving forward at all costs without the thought of how we are processing all of it? So this also might be a really processy time. And guess what? If you aren't in the mood to process, your body's going to take you down to make you do that process. It's going to be like, nah, bitch, take a step back. And we're going to back it on up, and you're going to be homesick in bed on a beautiful spring day. You're going to trip down the stairs and have to really have that shock moment of, oh shit, I almost got really hurt, to reevaluate how we are going head first into our lives, what we are putting out in the world, how we are branding ourselves. Because let's be honest, we all project a version of ourselves into the outside world that doesn't always line up with who we are and what we're processing on the inside world. It wouldn't do if we were at the checkout line and, our checkout lady's like, how are you? And you're like, oh my God, I'm fucking terrible. And then we just cry. I mean, listen, I'm here for it. And I'm not going to say I haven't done that before. And if that's what you need to do, I salute you in your bravery. But we have to live our lives, we have to continue doing the day-to-day. We have to raise our kids. We have to go to work. We have to do stuff. And so in a Mercury retrograde, it's just important, especially this one, to do things with intention, to do things a little slower, despite the world wanting to push us forward. And I also really think, and we'll talk so much more about this next week, about being careful about who you say you are, because we are who we say we are. Like, I have no reason to doubt you. You tell me you lived in France, I'm going to be like, freaking A, that's amazing, without even questioning the backstory. And I've just been feeling, as I've been getting older, and as these seasons and these stars have been shifting so much as of late, that my heart is softening, that I'm becoming a much more vulnerable person. And I don't know if you guys have been feeling that, but it makes me feel a little bit unprepared for the seasons of eclipse, for the surrender of things are just going to happen and there's nothing we can do about it, but readjust our sails and have a good attitude. And I think, and why I'm saying all this, is righteous honesty about where we're actually at with ourselves is the first step towards a more authentic version of self. And isn't that the best branding? Is when you can go into a room and people vibe you so hard because you are your own vibe. I want that. I want people to know me the second I walk into a room, with boundaries, of course. But why can't we just be like more honest? Why can't we tell our whole truths? Why is there so much shame around our mistakes, our failures, our falls? To me, these are things that are up for review right now. And we're going to experience it so much physically. You know, there's going to be moments where we're just going to want to scream, or moments where our body is going to tell us something is wrong. And the listening to that, the righteous honesty with being okay versus not okay, is really where we need to find ourselves. And if you can find yourself in a place of calm, in a place of honesty, in a place of truth, then that is really the sweet spot of what we're doing on this planet, is finding out who we are, but not who we want other people to see us as, because there's so much pizzazz out there these days, right? Give them the old razzle dazzle is really a new way of living, with so much TikTok and social media and what is expected of us. And the real role and the real game that I think we are missing here is that we're losing ourselves in the process of trying to be what we think other people are expecting us to be or imagining us to be. How confusing is that? It's like being a mouse in a maze where you can smell the cheese, but you don't know your right from your left. So shit, what are we gonna do? You know, I know what we can do. I know that as long as we can say that we don't know, as long as we can admit that something is wrong, as long as we can be honest with ourselves and shine through in an authentic way to the people around us, the more we can heal and grow together. So here we are in Mercury retrograde. Take it slow, take your body slow, take your soul slow. Do the best that you can to really think about the whys of everything that is held up this month. Why isn't that working out? Why didn't that happen? Why did that car break down? Why do all of my doors keep opening and closing? It's because it's spring break and my kids are everywhere. At least they're not talking as much, except right now. So the medicine is, I am a mom. There's gonna be noise sometimes. I'm not gonna filter that out for you guys. This is real life that we're all living. And it's really important that we all together admit that maybe we don't all have it all together. So righteous authenticity this week to the best of your ability, because I know that that can be uncomfortable. I know being vulnerable can hurt. And I know that putting yourself out there can lead to rejection, but it's in the mist, it's in the steam of rejection that we find ourselves more truly. So happy hunting this week. And for all the failures and all the ouches and all the no's, look for the reason behind them, because I guarantee you underneath it is a yes. Thank you so much. Hope you will follow me on all of the platforms. Despite kids talking and all of the mess, here we are in the soup together.